Choosing the right asset to invest can feel like a puzzle, especially with the plethora of index funds available in the market. Understanding the differences between funds is challenging. It is like standing in front of a buffet of funds, and each one seems to have its own secret code. Many people want to have steady returns, but do not have much time to conduct extensive research. That's why the S&P 500 index fund comes in, a fund that has steady returns for decades. But is it the right choice for your investment goal? Let's explore, what is the S&P 500 index fund? How does it work? What industries are included? And what is the cost to own it? Stick around until the end of the video and we will clarify why incorporating this index fund into your portfolio is a strategic move. The Standard & Poor 500 is commonly referred to as S&P 500 in everyday language. It was created by the credit rating agency Standard & Poor's in 1957 to give people a clear picture of how the U.S. stock market performs. This index includes the largest 500 publicly traded companies, making it a broad and comprehensive representation of the U.S. stock market. Many consider the S&P 500 as the benchmark for the entire stock market because of its wide coverage across various industries. It makes up 80% of the market capitalization, meaning it reflects a significant portion of the market's overall value. When the majority of stock prices go up, the S&P 500 arises as well. It is often used as a measure of market performance. As people talk about beating the market, they usually mean outperforming the S&P 500. For instance, if an investment like SCHD, a high dividend yield ETF, had a remarkable 30% return in 2021, while the S&P 500 only had 27% return in the same year, we can say that SCHD beat the market in 2021. Unlike mutual funds, index funds like S&P 500 are not actively managed by fund managers. They operate as a form of passive investment. The index is regularly reviewed and adjusted to make sure it accurately reflects the market's composition. This approach aims to mirror the market's performance rather than trying to outperform it actively. To become part of the S&P 500, a company must meet a set of strict criteria. This index includes 500 large U.S. companies that are listed on the stock exchanges. Any one of the companies' rise or fall in price does not have a massive impact on the overall performance of the index. Currently, the S&P 500 consists of 11 major industries, and each sector is taking under 30% of the portfolio. The largest sector is information technology, which makes up 28.1% of the portfolio. Technology plays a significant role in our lives. In recent years, technology has experienced huge growth. Companies like Microsoft, Apple, and Meta are great examples. Since this is the biggest sector in the portfolio, movements in its price do affect the overall index price. The second biggest sector is healthcare, comprising 13.1% of the index. Medical supply and pharmaceutical companies fall into this category. We know the consistent demand for medical treatment is always there. Companies like AbbVie and Abiomed are always needed. Financials comes in as the third largest sector, representing 12.8% of the index. This is a relatively stable industry with steady growth, making it attractive for collecting dividends. Companies like JP Morgan and Wells Fargo are great representatives for financials. Number 4, we have consumer discretionary, making up 10.6% of the index. Companies like Starbucks and Best Buy are in this category. This sector has a strong correlation with the economy. Consumer spending tends to decrease when the economy is not performing well. Communication services, including T-Mobile and Verizon, take up 8.7% of the index, ranking as the fifth largest sector. While the industry has not seen significant growth over the years, it serves as a reliable source of dividend income. Industrials, which includes railroad, airlines, and construction, make up 8.2% of the index, securing the sixth position. Companies like Union Pacific, Boeing, and Illinois Tool Works are all in this category. Consumer staples, taking 7.4% of the index, come in seventh. Companies like Coca-Cola and Walmart are known for low volatility and steady growth, along with distributing consistent dividends. The remaining sectors are energy, utilities, materials, and real estate. All have under 5% representation each in the index. Each sector contributes to the overall diversification of the S&P 500, spreading risk across various industries. The top 10 stocks in the S&P 500, including Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia, Alphabet Class A, Tesla, Meta, Alphabet Class C, Berkshire Hathaway, and United Health Group, collectively account for 30% of the entire index. 8 out of the 10 stocks are in the information technology sector. When technology stock prices are going up, it will directly bring up the index. Additionally, this index is not equally weighted, which means not all stocks have the same impact on the price movement. The rest of them are having very little effect on the index, especially for those stocks that are 1% or lower. Acquiring the S&P 500 through brokerages such as Charles Schwab, Vanguard, and Fidelity. In Charles Schwab, the ticker symbol is SPY. In Vanguard is VOO. And in Fidelity is FXAIX, encompassing nearly identical sets of 500 companies. While the overall performance of each fund remains largely similar, their expense ratios are not the same. Expense ratio is the annual fee charged by the investment company to cover operational costs. SPY carries a 0.09% expense ratio, VOO has a 0.03% expense ratio, and FXAIX has the lowest expense ratio of 0.02%. In simpler terms, for each $10,000 you invest, you will have to pay $9 to Charles Schwab, $3 to Vanguard, or $2 to Fidelity every year. Even though funds share the same underlying assets, a higher expense ratio has the potential to diminish your returns over time. It is always a good idea to compare expense ratios when choosing an index fund. In this case, Charles Schwab charges 3 times of expense ratio as Vanguard, which is unfavorable. Is S&P 500 a good investment for you? As an index fund, it gives investors an average return of the overall stock market. While it may not experience rapid growth like Tesla in 2020 and 2021, when in bear market, S&P 500 would not suffer as much as Netflix in 2022. The S&P 500 is highly diverse. It covers almost all industries we have available in the market. This diversity offers investors a broad exposure to the overall U.S. economy. When you own a share of the S&P 500, you are essentially holding a small piece of 500 different companies. These companies either have strong growth or consistent performance over decades. Considering the typical 9-to-5 work schedule that most people have, finding time to thoroughly research individual stocks can be challenging. The S&P 500 is passively managed and periodically removes companies that are underperforming and brings in companies that are doing reasonably well into the portfolio. This process aims to precisely reflect the current stock market performance. As a result, purchasing shares of S&P 500 can be a time-efficient way to grow your wealth in the long run and require less hands-on management compared to selecting individual stocks. The S&P 500 has generally done well in the past. Even though past performances does not directly relate to future results, many investors are considering this track record when making investment decisions. If your employer offers 401k, it is a great choice to allocate part of your contribution to the S&P 500. In most years, it has positive returns. By the time you retire, you will have a lot saved up. This is the power of compounding. If you just started your career and would like to beat the market, the S&P 500 may not be the best choice for you. There are some funds focusing on growth that could be better options. If you are about to retire and need a stream of passive income, investing in high dividend yield ETFs could be a better choice than S&P 500. Otherwise, giving up a small fee of 0.03% to own S&P 500 for years would be a great choice. Everyone has different situations. To make the best investment decision, we have to consider our age, income, career path, and the amount we need to retire. Life is all about trade-off. Making necessary sacrifices today could place yourself in a much better financial position in the future. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more helpful tips like this.